So today we're going to do a lesson on the poem Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll, and it's an excerpt from the original Alice in Wonderland book. So first of all, I want to ask you, have you ever heard the word Jabberwocky?
Yes, I've heard it from the America's Got Talent.
Oh, the dance crew from America's Got Talent? They're called the Jabberwockies. Have you heard it anywhere else?
I've heard it on one of the TV shows on Disney.
A TV show on Disney?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the Alice in Wonderland the movie? The latest one, not the original cartoon on Disney, but the latest Alice in Wonderland with the Tim Burton one?
Yes.
Did you hear the Jabberwocky in that word, in that movie? Maybe?
Yeah.
Kind of remember a little bit? Okay, so do you think Jabberwocky is a real word in the dictionary?
No.
No, you think it's a made-up word?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. So, depending on the title of the poem, Jabberwocky, what genre do you think this poem's going to be? Do you think it's going to be realistic, or do you think it's going to be fiction?
I think it's gonna be fiction.
Fiction? Like fantasy, kind of?
Yeah.
Okay, so, thinking about some of the things we talked about, I want you to draw a Jabberwocky for me. What do you think a Jabberwocky would look like? We know it's a fictional animal, right? So it's probably not going to look like a dog or a cat. Or maybe it does in your mind. So I'd like you to draw a Jabberwocky for me. Just take a couple minutes. I really liked your drawing of your Jabberwocky. So now we're actually going to read the poem Jabberwocky. So let's take turns. I'll have you start, and then we'll go back and forth and each read a verse. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you start by reading me the title and the author and the first verse.
Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll.
Carol.
And then, 'twas brillig and a slithy tub did diary and gimble and the wabi mimsy where the borogoves and the mome wrath outgrave out.
Okay, why don't you read to me what you came up with as far as nonsense words.
'Twas brillig, slithy, tub, diary, gimble, wabi, mimsy, borogov, mome, outgrave, jabberwock, or jub.
Some funny names in there, huh?
Yeah. Ruminant, bandersnatch, vorpal, maxim, thought, tum-tum, uffish, jabberwock, whiffling, tugly, burbled, vorpal, galumping, go, jabberwock, brabjus, kalu, kalay.
Okay, so the only one I heard in there that is not actually a nonsense word was 'twas. 'Twas actually is a word, and it kind of means it was. It's like a Shakespearean term. But other than that, you did really well picking out the nonsense words. So what I'm going to have you do now, I want you to go through, like I said before, and see if you can identify the parts of speech based on how it was used in the poem. So you're going to have to reference your poem and just go through and read the poem. My advice would be to do it verse by verse, that way you're not overwhelmed. And just go in and see if you can identify the part of speech for each one. Can you do that for me?
Yeah.
Okay, should we do the first one together? Okay, so brillig. It says, 'twas brillig and the slithy toves. What do you think, brillig? Do you think it would be an adjective? Is that a describing word, or is that a noun?
An adjective.
An adjective? I would say it would be an adjective. So you can just go ahead and write adjective next to it. And then maybe finish the rest of them on your own.
Okay.
Okay, so it looks like you've got all your parts of speech down there. Mostly adjectives, nouns, and verbs, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want you to look at your list of your nonsense words and your parts of speech. And this is going to be kind of like a Mad Lib. Have you ever done Mad Libs?
Yeah.
Where you go and you fill in the adjectives and the verbs and the nouns and make a funny story that doesn't really make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to basically turn this poem into a Mad Lib. So I want you to go back with all your highlighted words, now knowing the parts of speech. And I want you to put a word in that makes sense. Not necessarily makes sense, but a real word. You're not going to make up another nonsense word. You're going to put in another word that's the same part of speech. Do you understand? Any questions?
It doesn't need to make any sense.
Try to make it make sense, but if it doesn't quite make sense, that's okay. But just make sure the word is a real word that would fit inside the sentence.
Okay.
Okay, so why don't you go ahead and do that for me? Should we do one together?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do the first one. So this says, "'Twas brillig and the slithy toves." So what part of speech did you come up with for brillig and slithy toves?
Adjective.
So brillig's an adjective, slithy's an adjective. What about toves?
Noun.
That's a noun. So we're going to come up with two adjectives and a noun in this sentence. So 'twas, what's an adjective we could use instead of brillig? What does that remind you of?
Doesn't really remind me of anything.
Just come up with a good adjective. It reminds me of like maybe the word bright, like the sun, brillig, bright. Okay, so you can come up with the next one. 'Twas bright and the slithy. So let's come up with another word from slithy, an adjective.
Slithery.
Slithery,
Or
okay.
slimy.
So 'twas bright and the slithery toves. What do you think toves sounds like?
Toad.
A toad? Okay. So 'twas bright and the slithery toads. Sounds like a good start to me. So if you want to start writing, you can either use it, you can rip this page out if you want to, or you can keep going. Okay. So rewrite the poem with some words that are not nonsense words. So we got a pretty good start there. So 'twas bright and the slithery toads. Okay, so let's see what you came up with. Can you read me your new and improved Jabberwocky story?
Yep. 'Twas bright and slithery toads did jump and giggle in the pond. All misty were the bushes, and the angry wrath of the trees. Beware of the owl, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. So beware the foul bird, and shun the terrifying predator. He took his sharp sword in hand, sword in hand. Long time the dangerous foe he sought, so rested he by the willow tree, and stood a while in thought, and as in deep thought he stood, the owl of eye with flame came flying through the thick wood, and shrieked as it came, one, two, and
Through and through.
and through. The sharp blade went cling clack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galloping back, and thou slain the owl. Come to my arms, my beamish boy. O joyous day, hooray, hurrah! He chortled in his joy. 'Twas bright and slithery toes did jump and giggle in the pond. All misty were the bushes, and the angry wrath of the trees.
That's really good. I love all the adjectives you used. So did this experience give you some insight as to what the poem was about? Did it really get you to think about it a little bit more?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how about we go watch the newest Alice in Wonderland movie, since you don't remember seeing a Jabberwock in it, and we'll see what Lewis Carroll's, or rather Tim Burton's, interpretation of the Jabberwock is. You want to go watch it? Okay.
Yeah.